Studies on EdPop.
We saw an issue where our students were arriving late to class.
That's Joseph Ciesielski, assistant principal at John Marshall High School of Civic and Business Leadership in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
So we are one floor where we have about 430 students. We have 2 minutes officially for passing time, and then there's a warning bell, and they have 60 seconds to get to class.
In total, the students have 3 minutes to get to their next class, which includes a 1-minute warning.
What we saw, we were a large sum of students, probably like 40 to 60 in the hallway after that time period.
40 to 60 is a large number for one hallway. That's about 13% of the student population not on time.
So what we started doing was initiating tardy sweeps, where when that 60-second bell went off, we would warn students that this is a tardy sweep. If you're caught in the hallway afterwards, teachers are to lock their doors, close the door, and then one of the administrators on the floor comes out to the center desk area, and all other students have to report to that table, and they receive a detention slip.
What Joe is doing is considered a negative consequence to deter unwanted behavior. But when do they serve the detention, and how do they serve it?
Once a week on Fridays after school, where students come for an hour and they contribute back to the school. So that could be cleaning classrooms with the desk, with the tables, sweeping floors. It could be if a teacher has a specific function they need in the classroom, they sweep out the stairwells to help the custodians in that area. So it's something that gives back to John Marshall as a whole.
Part of John Marshall's mission is to give back to the community. Joe figures this makes the detention more meaningful and akin to community service. They noticed it was an issue early in the year. They passed the idea by the faculty and staff to see what the reaction would be.
They were excited about it because they thought that at first there would be quite a few kids caught in the tardy sweep, but as they saw that we were going to continue to do it and follow through with that, that number would reduce. So at first, the first couple times, it was probably like 30 or 40 kids being caught, but as time went on, now we'll get maybe 3 to 4 during a tardy sweep, and they're only losing between 2 minutes and 4 minutes of instruction as they get their tardy pass and then return to class. We don't do tardy sweeps every period, but we've seen that we're having less students in the hallway because they don't know when the tardy sweeps will be. So there's usually 2 a day, and they'll be at random periods. And it doesn't really take a lot of time off of my plate, as I'm usually the one that runs them as the assistant principal, because really when I do them, I'm only losing maybe 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of a period. So it's not like I can't get into classrooms to still coach, and I can't do the operation functions of the school. We've set pretty clear expectations that they know what the consequence will be, and they know that the consequence can be heightened. If a student was to not come down and they're sitting by a door, standing by the hallway, after handling the students that came down and followed the procedure correctly, I would go down, I would engage the student.
Students that outright refuse to comply with the Detention Community Service Initiative are escorted to the Planning Center.
The Planning Center is a mixture of an isolated intervention where it's somewhat like in-school suspension, where they are isolated from their fellow peers. However, it's been changed in the way that students are still able to receive their instruction. So students get their work from their teacher, come to that area, and there is a Planning Center instructor who's able to then start that assignment, the directions, and get them working and checking with them to make sure they're completing the assignment.
The rollout of the initiative was done through teacher reminders in each period as well as administrative announcements. The first sweep served as a warning only, and students were informed of the consequences to come. There were some alternatives offered if students were unable to stay on a Friday.
They can do 2 days of lunchroom cleanup, which means they give back to the community by going around the lunchroom, picking up students' lunches, sweeping, and completing that duty for 2 days to equal the hour time period. So we do have some gentlemen that at times will volunteer to clean the cafeteria, but then they don't do it. We only allow in the lunchroom 3 at a time, because if we have too many, they're actually not doing a duty, then it doesn't count.
Joe explained to me that this was not just his idea, but an initiative that was driven by the school as a team. The admins asked the teachers what they identify as a barrier to instruction. The teachers cited that there were too many students coming in way late to class. The teachers asked that all students not in the classroom by the bell be held for the entire period in the planning center. The admins asked for other suggestions due to logistical problems with the solution, but mostly because of the loss in instructional time.
So we took some of their suggestions, came back as the admin team, met with our leadership team, which is a few other teachers, and then came up with the plan, and then I finalized who would be in charge, how it would be handled on a day-to-day basis.
I asked Joe about what elements of the tardiness initiative could generalize to all schools.
The biggest thing is the community service aspect. Kids are not just coming after school, sitting in a room, and just sitting with their head down and just being held in place as a punishment. These students are coming back, they're giving back to our school. So right now we have girls walking through classrooms. Not only are they cleaning, they're interacting with the teachers so that they get to give back to the school, give back to the teachers, and continuous with the interaction of trying to make the school feel like more of a community and feel like more of a family instead of just the negative feeling behind I'm sitting in the building for an extra hour because I can't show up to class on time.
This is what Joe had to say about the biggest challenges with the tardy sweep.
So we do have a group of probably about 7 to 10 people that are repeat offenders. We take to the next step. We've created a student trackers that then each of those students are given short-term goals. So one example is of a boy right now that's late several times throughout the day. So right now he is on a 1-week short-term goal that he is on time every day, and he is on task in class, and he said he loves pizza. Ooh. So I will buy him a large pizza after that week short-term goal. So there's probably really 2 big struggles with this initiative. One is making sure that teachers follow through with actually closing and locking the door, and the second is making students feel that the detention is a true consequence.
And if the students don't show up to the detention community service, Joe told me that the system is fluid and allows students to build 3 detentions before they're sent to the planning center for an entire day. The rationalization is that students do not lose instructional time in theory and are socially isolated as a big deterrent.
So by going to the planning center and being isolated from that at times can be a consequence for students that don't attend the detention and build up 3 or more to where they have to face that instead.
We brought Joe's tardiness sweep initiative to the Roundtable to get more perspectives.
At the Roundtable for this case study, we have Sean Wheeler, our resident idea man, along with Katherine Bussert, our social-emotional leader, and me, Seamus O'Hara, with your administrative perspective.
Okay, so we're talking about Joe's tardiness sweep. And the first question I have for you is, do lockouts work?
I think lockouts work if you're looking to enforce a culture that might not be the best for education, but might be the best for discipline. Mm-hmm. Right? If your goal in the school is to have kids behave in an orderly fashion,
you want to control the kids,
then I think lockouts are a great step towards that.
Is it sustainable though?
I don't even know if you'd want to sustain it, right? I mean,
you don't want to.
You know, I'm a big believer that school is about learning. I seem to
Get
be,
out of town.
We seem to be minorities who think that. But if the goal of these kind of lockouts is to get kids where they need to be on time, sure. I mean, it will work. Does it enforce the cultural values that then aid towards learning? I don't think so. I think they're contrary to that.
See, my experience with that is kind of, to add to that, you'll get it to happen, and then the minute you don't do a lockout, well, maybe the first time the kids thought that there was going to be a lockout or surprise, but after they see a trend where there's no lockouts happening now, they go back to their old behaviors. It's not sustainable.
Well, and I think from a practical standpoint too, it's not sustainable because the administrators are going to be the ones enforcing it in the hallways, and they have other things to do.
Maybe if you had a dedicated person, right? One person, the dean of
possibly
hallway
your dean of discipline, which I mean, those do exist. I don't know what the situation is at John Marshall.
I think we do a lot of this in education. We have gotcha education.
Right.
The very idea that you randomize the lockout so that kids never know when it's going to happen. You're always just trying to catch a kid. I think we all deal with this all the time in the classroom. Am I a cop or am I an educator? Right? Am I catching you or inspiring you?
Yeah.
And this is definitely set up as gotcha education, which is we have made it so uncomfortable and random for you that when we ring this bell, you do this, but when we make this sound, you do this, or when I'm standing here, you have to move here. And it's all trying to catch kids doing the wrong thing.
Is 3 minutes enough? It's a hallway. It's kind of your average-sized school hallway. There's no up, there's no down, but is 3 minutes enough for you to do your business as a student and get to class?
I mean, what is your business?
Could be bathroom.
Yeah, could be good. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to the bathroom, I don't want to get into all these details here.
I do.
But
if you have to take a 2, if you have to take a 2,
yeah,
almost no passing period's going to be enough time.
Absolutely not.
And especially for some people. But if you have to take a 1, it's enough time. If, and there's a big if there.
Yeah.
How many people are in the bathroom?
Just go to your teacher, ask them, tell them you need to go to the bathroom, ask them for permission and a little more time, let them know you're going to be late because of that reason, and then
So like you're saying being reasonable.
Well, okay.
Yeah, no,
yeah, that's reasonable, but at the same time, if you got to go.
Right, if you truly have a good relationship with your teacher and you truly know your students,
right, them
asking, can I use the bathroom, should not be this giant ordeal or this huge, pain in the butt to a teacher.
I mean, does 3 minutes work for the hallway with 60 kids in it? Is kind of like looking at a symptom of a really bad disease and saying, is this symptom, has it gone far enough? Our brains don't work in 3-minute switches. There's not an adult in this universe who can easily change between 7 subjects in a row over 45 minutes to an hour.
Right, no adult wants to do that.
And then a 3-minute changeover to an entirely different subject. Forget the idea that we should be blending the subjects and all this other stuff. But to have a kid switch from topic A to topic B all the way through topic G and H with 3-minute intervals, okay, fine.
That's a heavy pace.
Fine, you have a traffic problem. Fine, you have a kid walking in late problem. But the detriment is to the learning of kids throughout the day. Every single kid in that building is working in a way that is not conducive to thought, to learning, to feeling okay. We'd have to change the whole thing. So is 3 minutes enough? Well, yeah, if you want this system, 3 minutes seems to be fine, right? I mean, they're kids where they got to go, right? The bathroom thing makes sense. But a 3-minute crossover in learning, in brain, adults, we don't do that. We need 5-minute break, even...
Just for nothing.
Just for nothing. Just to sit.
5-minute break.
Nothing.
We've been in PDs before, and every adult is thinking, where's that 5-minute break?
Yeah, we kill for the breaks, and then we give kids, we do this to kids, they go to 7 meetings a day.
Is community service better than detention?
Well, first of all, that's a pretty loaded term. I'm sorry. I struggle with what they are doing being called community service.
Why?
They're free labor for the school.
But they shouldn't have been out in the hallway.
Community service is a punishment, so doing good for your
school, yeah.
Is it community service if you're forced to do it?
Yeah, and of course not. Right? Of course not. Is it better than a kid sitting there in the desk with their head down? I don't think so. I actually don't. Better for whom? Better for the kid? I'll bet you the kid, after going to those 7 meetings a day, could use a half hour of punishment where they put their head down and relax. Okay, I'd rather have a kid do that than be forced into some gotcha education idea of, hey, while you're here and we have you captured, let's put you to work. He said he wanted community service to build a sense of family. And then I'm talking like 2 sentences. When you go
That's
back
not a bad thing, though.
Sure, but
Right.
2 sentences later, he calls them repeat offenders. My daughter isn't a repeat offender because she keeps showing up in my house, right? She's part of my family.
Yeah.
This kid wants food again. So it's kind of the mindset. The mindset. If you want community service, maybe the whole mindset should change about how we're treating them. So now...
The community is also, by the way, right outside the doors of the school building. When we use the word community, we're talking about the community of the school.
Yeah.
And, you have people for that, right? The whole community is responsible. So honestly, you should also have teachers cleaning up the lunchroom as well as anyone else who walks in the building, right? If you're going to assign this as a community project and have the whole community there, that's the fun of it, actually, right? We've all participated in community activities. When we all grab a broom and we rake up, or we sweep up the mess, we kind of can have fun doing it.
Right.
But when I'm doing it alone, don't tell me I'm part of a community when I'm, me and the other 3 kids who got in trouble are sweeping. That's not a community service. Now, right outside the door of the school is a real community.
So what could happen differently? because I think there's some great nuggets here. The community service aspect, the kids spending additional time that's not instructional time with their teachers so that each party gets to know each other better. How can you make that happen? Or let me frame it like this. Is there a way in which to reward the students that are getting there on time rather than punishing the ones that are not? Is that a practical thing to do as a school?
I think there's a comedian who's got a whole bit about don't ask for credit for things you should be doing.
Yeah.
You should show up to class on time. There's no reward for that. I mean, in my world, right? There's no reward for showing up for class on time. And if you can't make it to class on time, I don't think sweeping helps you get there, right? Planning helps you get there. Figuring out when is a good time for you to go to the bathroom, having a good relationship with your teacher so you can ask, like Kay said. Those things seem to me to be better off.
So when these repeat offenders actually are there, or they're just not kind of getting the deal, and then they're put on some kind of improvement plan, right? And they meet that improvement plan, should they be rewarded? They're getting a pizza. I would be upset if I were a kid who's going to class on time all the time. I'd be like, where's my pizza?
I struggle with this one. I kind of, when I heard that, I was, I felt the same way that you did. I was like, oh, because, I mean,
were you kind of happy for the kid? Were you kind of happy
but
for the kid?
I was happy for that kid. I was like, oh, but, I feel like that's, and I come back to this, and I used to have this poster hanging in my classroom that says,
there's a cat that's hanging there.
Don't worry, we all do.
I can tell just by looking at EKB that you've had.
You wear the sweater.
No. And you guys, I don't know, this may open up a whole new can of worms, but fair isn't everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need to be successful.
Equity versus equality.
Exactly.
Right.
That kind of popped into my head when I was having those mixed feelings about it, and I thought, those kids that are getting to class on time, I mean, yes, they're doing the right thing. They don't, like you said, they shouldn't get that extra reward, but obviously there's something going on for that kid. We don't know kind of the deeper implications of what's happening with
I think they just need to take it too.
Well,
I had to poop, and now I'm sweeping the cafeteria.
Do meaningful things happen in the planning center?
Oh, boy. So this is one that I've struggled with. And I think uniquely as an administrator, and this year as a teacher. So last year I was an administrator in my building, and this year I've gone back into the classroom. Last year I looked as an administrator, and kind of with my bent and ilk, I really thought of it as kid jail. I called it kid jail. It felt like we had a room in which we sent kids to go serve their time.
And so behind the scenes, the adults are calling it kid jail.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as an administrator, I felt it was wrong. I was trying to do everything we could in our building to change that.
Right.
But it was written into the contract, actually. And in the interview, he said that the kids can still receive instruction in the planning center. And I'm calling, no way is that always happening in there. First of all, you can't tell me the kid's getting the same instruction, the non-licensed teacher in the subject area.
It can't possibly be the same.
It can't possibly be that. And then, so I thought, big waste of time. I'm not sure I like this. It's basically kid jail. We have to do it because it's in the contract, but okay. As a teacher this year, and I teach in inner city, and things sometimes, I have kids who cannot be in class that day.
Right.
Sending them to the planning center is the horrible math that sometimes teachers have to do in their head, on the fly, looking at a room full of people who need to learn something. I hate it. I hate saying it out loud.
Right, it's
but
a reality.
There are many times I will sacrifice the one for the many.
It's a reality.
Yeah.
I will send you to kid jail so that these other 29 kids can learn something today.
It's the easiest Sophie's choice.
Right. And so in a way, for the kid, right, it is. But it's hard. It feels like selling your soul.
No,
and then you have this idea of, okay, so kids late and they wind up in the planning center. I was a kid. I would definitely be late as much as I could.
No, I agree with you that, I've had to make the tough call, sacrificing the one for the many.
The easiest Sophie's choice.
As we are now calling it.
The episode title.
Oh, God.
Is there a clear problem of practice in John Marshall in regards to tardiness to getting to class?
I mean, I think Sean identified it earlier. I think that it's a matter of the the culture that's being created more than anything. I think it's what do you want in your school? Do you want it to be more, like the discipline based, right? Or do we want to create something where these kids are developing more autonomy and realize that they want to be there, need to be there, can develop some kind of, trusting relationship with their teachers. I know that can be kind of that
happens.
No, it does happen. I've seen it.
Legend has it that some students do trust their teachers.
Seamus.
It's funny. I feel bad about Joe, right? Mm-hmm. Joe's
a great guy, by the way.
Joe's doing a really good thing within the system he is, right? Yes. I don't want to poop all over Joe, because I think he's, again, it's more of a symptom than the disease, right? Yeah. Joe is working within a framework in which he's being asked to do certain things.
Right.
And in which there is a sense of order that must occur in a school. And he is doing something about a problem. If you listen to the system that Joe is trapped in, right? He said the first and most important thing about getting this all to execute well is making sure that a teacher closes a door. He said it.
Yeah, it's the biggest obstacle.
And it stuck me. The biggest obstacle is making sure that teachers close their doors. He wants teachers to close their doors. Maybe I'm a poet too much, but man, that metaphor. If you as an administrator are saying the biggest problem I have right now is I need more teachers to close more doors in the faces of students trying to get to class. I admire what Joe's doing, and I'm glad he's out there doing the work. But I am also hopeful that discussions like this can maybe at least get us talking and thinking about, well, what exactly does that mean when we're closing the door in students' faces? I think, and that goes back to what Kay said about the culture, right? So important. Mm-hmm. Well, do you want a culture of learning where you're running to rooms where teachers are, a good day is when more teachers close more doors in the faces of more students?
Yeah, no, I think that even the person who's playing within that framework, they don't want that. But like you said, the game is a certain way, and they kind of almost have to play that in order to satisfy.
One day we'll decide if we want to educate kids in a school or if we want to organize them, right? One day we're going to decide. Some of us, we decide every day. And some of us make, like me, make a lot of the wrong choices along the way.
The easiest selfish choice.
Okay. Here's the worst: is I don't know what Sophie's choice is.
Oh man, then you're right.
Is it about sex change?
What's it? No.
Or is it having to do with the Holocaust? Here are my two mental question marks. Sophie's choice: is it a sex change, or is it something to do with the Holocaust? I think neither of those are appropriate. We should probably move on.
That will do it for the case study today. A big thank you to Joseph Ciesielski with John Marshall High School. As always, you can visit educationpop.org to see any documentation that any of our case study administrators have chosen to share with the audience. And now it's time to hear a little bit from you.